Hold on. That's okay. Good. I have to fix something. Couple spots that haven't hardened yet. Okay. Sounds good. Oh. I gotta paint that. Just a bit. Come on. Dang it. Man! It just came out. Can people not wait? That's too much paint. Oh well. And it's way too yellow. Okay, whatever. Well, that's not good. Come on. sprayer. Says two. Like, maybe I can use some of this extra paint to add some little highlights here. Nah. I'm gonna go darker rather than lighter. Come on. Stuck there. Okay. Madoka Magica. Ah, fuck. Drop on my paint bottle. Okay. I'm trying to decide if I actually want to do like a black wash on this, because it will sink into the wood. It's still pretty messed up. Earlier I was trying to, like, I took some very watered down black, and with this tiny messed up little scrungle brush, I started painting like between the planks. And I kind of like that. It's just gonna take a while, but I think it'd be better for it to take a while than to do something all over that I don't like that'll take a lot more effort to fix. There. Okay. Do want to black wash the bottom because I want this to look shadowy. Okay, it's sinking in less than I thought. So maybe it would be okay if I took, like, if it was this watered down. I just go over the whole thing. It's a good testing spot down here. Except where there's glue, it's gonna be a problem. I can just paint over it. Okay, I do actually like that. And it's gonna dry to be a bit lighter, which I gotta remember. Actually put more black in there, possibly. Or I can put a couple... I can put a couple coats. Okay. Okay, that'll actually be okay. So try it on the two different types of wood. Okay, that'll be right. We'll be fine. Yo, nice. Yeah, on another server, I'm in with some friends. A couple of them are playing Tomodachi Life and like doing some really crazy character customization. They haven't done anything like that, but it looks like it's really complex, which I like. It's one of those games I'm like, I almost want to play it just for the character customization. And to make some funky characters. Eh. Eh. Okay, looks like it'll be okay to paint over the gray. It'll just like sink in and go past it. It'll still be pretty dusty looking. I can always go back with more gray if I have to. Oh, not reveal. I have to rotate them. I'm not gonna show everyone. I'm going to randomly choose which direction to rotate it in. I'm gonna put you all in like a random position essentially, and then the next person's going to draw the second evolution, and then I'm going to pass it on to the third person so that each person will draw one evolution of the same Pokemon. So the reveal will be at least in a week, like a week or two or something. Well, not a week or two, like around a week or something maybe. Yeah. Next rotation, maybe tomorrow? Skelebi got kind of sick and wasn't able to do a piece yet, and they also tend to overthink art challenges because we've been in some pretty intense art telephone games. So I think they might be thinking that it has to be like really, really intense, and I'm like, you don't have to match the style, it's fine. It's just fun. But they like to take stuff like this seriously, so I'm like, well, whatever. I can give you an extra day. Yeah, either, because I put a thing in Cletus chat that said, I'm gonna push the rotation by a day. 1, 2, 3. Basil might, Skelebi might get it to me tomorrow. Maybe. So either tomorrow or Saturday. And then I will choose an order and a direction to rotate in, and yeah. Nice. I gotta start putting, like, rust around here. I gotta, I need to get another paint. Hold on. Okay. Paint some rust. Hydration check. Damn it. I'm looking at pictures of rusty roofs. corrugated steel roof sales. Hmm. The brains are kind of like grayish pinkish, aren't they? Depends on if it's fresh, I guess, because, if it's fresh, it's going to have blood all over it. Oh, I should turn my screen filter off for a bit, because that's making it redder than it is. Yeah, I like it, because, generally starter Pokemon tend to, okay, it's a lot more orange and brown. They tend to just, God. They tend to be really simple. And then, with the stuff like the culture they're inspired by, or the species they're inspired by, whatever the region they're inspired by, tends to come out more in the second and third evolution. Fuck. Yeah. And it's like, you can't be too precious with it, because the next person's, I don't know which one it'll be, but the next person is going to interpret it in some different way, and then it'll get interpreted a different way. Be able to. Ish. It's this tiny one. Okay, I'll be able to get between the things like that. I can use one of the fluffier ones for this more widespread area. Yeah, fucking go for it. Just realized there would be like a leak here, so I could try to do something about making it seem like there's water damage on the floor. I love making things look rusty. Ah. Mm. Wah, wah, that sucks. Maybe it'll be, I don't know, an interesting change of pace? Or maybe it'll suck. I don't know. 40 minutes, Jesus. Ah, God. Over here it's been around $4 and climbing. Yeah, higher in California, so it's gonna be worse, huh? I know it's gotta be real bad at certain places in the middle of the country, too, because it takes a really long time to get stuff over there. Uh, doesn't quite click anymore. Ups at the risks of slight warping by adding water and wash. Yo, nice. Congrats on that, working well. Yeah, I did end up being on pretty late. Not as late as I used to do, which was like 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. Not 11 a.m., 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's still late night. Ow, ow, ow. Gonna be hearing my dry monotone in your nightmares. Strange. Taxes has also told me that. I'm like, okay. Well, always free to come by and fall asleep. It'll be a lot like the other times you have come by in real life and fallen asleep. Or gotten into my car on a long drive and then fallen asleep. Oh, yeah, I was looking for the email you're telling me to look for, and I can't find it. Like, I couldn't find it. Either she sent it to the wrong email, or I'm not getting a pip, or she did that thing she sometimes does that kind of annoys you, where she'll send something to you that's supposed to go to, like, you, me, and Vicky. Like a cat. Oh, I gotta do the inside too, huh? Jackie Lawson? Jackie Lawson? Those cheesy little email cards. I think they're kinda cute, but only because they're like a little bit nostalgic. Now I'll just use this paint. Watch, it's crazy different. Okay, no, it's not too bad. Some spots where the back of the paper was sticking through the glass. You can see it. Oh my god, yeah. I remember Jib Jab. Yeah, jibjab.com. It started out as like, they actually did a bunch of like really zany political commentary cartoons that were like silly little music videos and stuff like that. And they also did cards where you could like send the videos to your friends. And then after a while, it just turned into like a silly greeting card, like online greeting card company. And I think they've stopped posting little animations and stuff. There was a lot of like making fun of George W. Bush. And Al Gore and stuff like that. Of course, I haven't checked them for a long time. They could be over there having a field day about current events. Dovelair reviews. Cement. Oh, whoops. Wait. I mean to close that one. I'm going to close that one. Okay. Okay, minimize. Oh, we're talking about JibJab. JibJab.com was a website back in like the early 2000s, late 90s and stuff, early 2000s, yeah, that was about one. That made a bunch of like funky political cartoons and stuff like that, and then later they changed to doing those like e-gift card kind of things, not a gift card, but e-greeting cards that were like really corny. I don't know if I remember this one. This is one of their archived videos. Yeah. It's in that era. God, that's so nostalgic. One's on the inside. A little bit loud. At 6 o'clock each evening, news was on its way. From anchors of integrity and 3 channels to choose. It's what we call the news. Then along came cable and a ratings race ensued. Great legends found themselves replaced by blondes with big fake moves. Debate replaced with punditry, politically skewed. It's what we call the news. We interrupt this story, which is coming from Iraq. Has Rosie Sue and Donald Sue and Rosie back? We're cutting from Darfur. We're in Des Moines with urgent news. There's a finger in my pool. Guitar strings, titles, sound effects, and graphics everywhere. Breaking news each minute in the rush to get on air. Oh yeah, some people start putting viruses in e-cards, which is fucking rude. How are my cheesy aunts supposed to send things to people? The world's greatly affected by the stories you choose to put into the news. Bronco chases, plane wreck shootings,
this just in. President Bush can't open a door. They call this crap the news. That's what they call it.
Oh my god, I remember that. Yeah, it's one of those cheesy sites like that. I watch a lot of their videos. They're very silly and I mean, technically, sorta, yeah. We had the internet, but it wasn't as connected, so people didn't like know as many things, so a lot of people were innocent to things. And then some slut named Social Media ate an apple or whatever. Just kidding. Mm-hmm. Things I should have done earlier. Making sure these were the right color, or at least a color that was going to sort of contrast the background so they wouldn't just blend right into it. Like, I do want them to sort of blend in, but they were blending in too much to where it looked like completely contrastless, so it's okay if they look a little bit stylized. Ah, my neck. Maybe? There's gonna be something called Toy Mania, which is gonna be an event put on by Yo Toys. And it's gonna be like a bunch of collectibles and stuff. And I'm into that kind of thing, so I kind of want to go check out the things. I think the admission is either free or very cheap. I need to look at what like water damaged old wood looks like, because I realize I'm gonna have a leak in this corner, so that would probably affect the ground over here. The flooring. Gonna have to add a bit of red to the deeper parts of the rust, and I might add a little bit of yellow to the corners and kind of like fade it out. I do already kind of like how it looks like this, but I would like to be a bit deeper. It'd be cool. I have a bunch of, I don't know how big the figure is, but, I have a bunch of, like, old cigar boxes, or you could also, go, like, get a cigar box, but they make pretty nice little shadow boxes, I feel like. I have a few that I got, I'm still making them. I cut up another one just the other day. I need to figure out where to put the shelves, but I've been getting the ones where the lids fit, like, they sort of fit perfectly into the inner part of the box. And they're just, like, held back by a couple of, like, tabs, essentially, and then that means you can cut the shelves out perfectly so that, like, they just fit into the box. You can cut the lid up and use it as little shelves for the inside of the box, and it's really nice to make little trinket boxes like a... If I can get a space with Becky at the recycle show, I kind of want to make like a bunch of those and try to sell them. After I make the ones for myself. That's a fun little project though. Okay. Posture and stretch check. My freaking left trapezius keeps hurting. Oh, that's not too much then. That just means you know your OCs well. Bunch of tiny cigarettes. A raven? Oh, a raven. Why do you spell so weird?
I have flip-flopped on making this one for about 2 years, but I do want to share it. The worst joke I've ever thought of. A real groaner. This will make you just upset and go, oh my god. Like that kind of joke. It is also a little long, so please bear with me. So imagine a man at a video game convention. He's very happy to be there, seeing all these new video games that are coming. Something like Animal Crossing or something, I don't know. But to his absolute shock, he sees one of the stalls about a game where you play a Klansman. Now rightfully, this man is upset. That's terrible. Terrible. How could they allow such a thing? So he rightfully confronts the developer and says, where do you get off, buddy, making a video game about the KKK as the heroes? How do you do that in this year? And the developer responds, no, it's not about racism. It's about him turning into a bumblebee. The man responds with, what? Yeah, it's about him learning tolerance by working with things that are black and yellow and realizing those ain't so bad, you know? The man responds, what even is the gameplay? How does this work? The developer responds, oh, no, it's not like any game ever before. It's the first of its kind. It's not even... There's no game comparable to it. They're thinking this is so one of a kind that it'll inspire its own new genre. A white people be-like. Now, I have tested this joke on multiple people. I have been slapped, kicked out of calls. Usually I get a shut the fuck up, don't talk ever again.
It's really bad.
But yeah. So if you ever want to put someone in a bad mood, feel free to just use that. You don't even have to credit me. And if you're in such a bad mood, you're a trooper for getting this far. I love you.
I'm gonna link that to my friend who likes really bad jokes.
Gives a cut to the channel. Also, they're making pink stuff today. If you want pink stuff, it's a good day to get it.
Oh, nice. Good job, got that. Is he still not able to use Vision Video? It was a really cool name for a... band. Okay, I'll link that to my friend who likes really bad jokes. is there so much water in here? Maybe I gotta get like a mixing stick and really get in there. I highly recommend painting something to look like it's rusting. Satisfying. Weathering things is the best. Never used specific rust paint before. I just like use acrylics and water them down a bit. It's close enough. It's good. Don't know why that's so liquidy. Maybe I can like it's not enough. No. Got this old yeah, I got this old like pop stick. Oh what? Mm. Okay, so that didn't happen. That's something you were imagining. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's probably had some sort of debate or whatever. They could have gotten mad, or they could have just been like, "What are you talking about? That's irrelevant," and then change the subject. What's it's allow? I think. Okay. Cups. Goobista 10% off your waifu cups. Nice. Give that a minute to dry. And okay, wow, yeah, that is all scrundled up. Did it get separated? What the hell? downright scrinkly in there. Come on. Good. Playing something currently. I'm gonna remember to turn the volume off and go back to watching PBS NewsHour. Or maybe I'll watch something else on here, I don't know. I recently finally was able to do a $5 monthly donation to PBS. There's like a whole bunch of shows on here. I'm kind of interested in like the historical ones. Okay. Oh wait, I think the last time I was using this, I tried to put some water in here and like agitate it a bit to get it to mix, but I don't think I did that enough. It's possible I just put water in here and then forgot to agitate it. It's a mix. And then off to bed with you. Maybe I'll keep this around as a storing stick. Just a minute. Over there. I gotta throw this away. Paint everywhere. Why do my legs hurt when I didn't even do nothing? I also have to clean off. I have to change this paint water because it's getting nasty. I will copy paste this into the search bar and go to that after this video because I'm using FreeTube, so I don't have a bunch of tabs open. Oh, whoops. Yeah, states' rights to do what? Yeah, what were they fighting for the right to do, huh? Yeah, what are they being oppressed for? Oh, whoops. It's a very short video, so I guess whatever.
Very few things in history are black and white. A lot of it is gray, and that includes the Civil War. It was actually fighting for
Hydration check.
states' rights.
States' rights to do what?
Excuse me, sir?
States' rights to do what? What did you want to use those rights for? You usually don't mention that part. I want to hear it.
Yeah,
What
states'
you
rights to
wanna
do what?
Well, the Confederacy didn't want to be oppressed by the North.
Really, what were they preventing you from doing? What did they not want you to do?
Listen, my friend, there was more to it than slavery for why we made the Confederacy.
That is really, really interesting because the guy who made the Confederacy, the vice president, said that was because they wanted to have slavery, and all the state constitutions said they wanted to have slavery, and they seceded the moment the president got elected that was going to abolish slavery. Boy, the Confederacy sure looks slavery adjacent, at least. No, anyways, states' rights do what?
You're ignoring our other
Yeah,
concerns.
but my concerns is slavery, so I don't care because you deserve it because you're evil. And slavery is evil. That's a very... You should know this. By the way, could you answer my question, you fucking traitor? States' rights to do what?
Well, it's our heritage.
It lasted 5 years. The Annoying Oranges existed longer than the Confederacy did. The fucking Annoying Orange, dude. You're gonna celebrate a nation so fucking weak the Annoying Orange outlived it?
We're states' rights.
Got Douglas.
Each Dixie boy must understand that he must mind his Uncle Sam.
My
We'll all go
favorite fucking argument. You tell me the Confederacy is weaker than the annoying fucking Orange? Checkmate Lincolnite. It is very, like, a teenager to 20-year-old, I am intelligent brain to be like, well, I mean, if you actually think of the nuance of the situation, you know, you do the whole, like, fucking devil's advocate thing. Everyone does it. I probably did it. I don't know. I don't think about, like, states' rights things, but other stuff. I did think that at one point, because that's the narrative. Oh, everyone stopped being racist, but no. No, they didn't. Checkmate Lincolnite's really fucking good. I don't watch it enough. Oops. Did too much there. Oh, dang. Older series, I guess, then. I need to watch more of what is already out. I've only seen, like, a little bit, but it is good. Yes, I know. I think that movie had potential, but it was very someone's first movie. I think I need to rust up this back part a lot more. Ah. Good song. I like the song. Forgot to mention that. Cool stuff. Like I said, a bit more rusted up because the things are horizontal, so I feel like I would probably catch like more water. Got this spot that would have spilled over a bunch. Here. Yeah. Just doing a little neck stretch again. Ow.
So, Billy Yank, my very good friend, wasn't it kinda about states' rights?
Yeah, Johnny Reb. States' rights.
To on slaves! There it is. Checkmate, Lincolnites! Welcome back to the show. I missed you all so very much. Now, watch and be amazed. For tonight I will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the war between the states had nothing to do with slavery. It was about states' rights versus tyrannical overreach in federal government.
Not really, man.
Hold your horses now. John C. Calhoun himself said that if there be no protective power for the states, they must be forced to rebel. What about the Tariff of Abominations in 1828? States' rights was an issue way before slavery. What about the Whiskey Rebellion and Shays Rebellion? And there were many other times when issue of states' rights or limitation on federal power in general popped up as stated. Also, I must ask, are you an anarcho-syndicalist? I don't know what that is, so no. But to your point, yeah, I mean, states' rights was a huge issue in the early national and antebellum periods and remains one to this day, as was slavery, right from the very beginning. The two issues intertwined in really interesting and complex ways before finally coming to a head in the secession winter of 1861. It's a big topic, so would you mind if we went about this chronologically? Certainly. Where shall we begin? 7 years ago, baby. Nah. The first war of American independence. A pity you Northerners grew to become the self-same yoke we once fought so hard to throw off. Forced into secession by your many aggressions and usurpations, we reluctantly took up the mantle of American freedom to found a truly more perfect union as the Founding Fathers had intended. A confederacy of autonomous republics vis-a-vis the states, bound
vis-a-vis
together
you.
for mutual advantage, but free to pursue our own destinies and stuff. Well, we tried that at first, with the Articles of Confederation, but that worked about as well as a screen door in a submarine. Well, you would think that, wouldn't you? Because it was you government-worshipping Northerners who bamboozled us liberty-loving Southerners into ratifying the Constitution and accepting a much more powerful federal government than we had originally bargained for. Actually, most educated people in the Deep South were all for the Constitution and eagerly sought the stability it provided. The Revolutionary War had been incredibly hard on the Carolinas and Georgia. The fighting there was highly unconventional and brutally partisan, and it absolutely devastated the entire region. And we got to remember, at the time, these were still sparsely populated backcountry colonies. The halcyon days of King Cotton were still far in the future. In 1788, the South Carolina House of Representatives met to consider ratification of the new Constitution. Arguing for the document's merits, Federalist delegate Charles Cotesworth Pinckney did not mince words.
The southern states are weak. We are so weak that by ourselves we could not form a union strong enough for the purpose of effectually protecting each other. Without union with the other states, South Carolina must soon fall. Is there anyone among us so much a Quixote as to suppose that this state could long maintain her independence if she stood alone, or was only connected with the southern states? I scarcely believe there is.
You mentioned Shays Rebellion, which is a perfect example of what Pinckney was talking about here. In 1786, a year before the Constitutional Convention, Massachusetts raised taxes to insanely high levels. What a shocker. Under the Articles of Confederation, the state government was basically unaccountable, and these taxes disproportionately affected the very poor. When they inevitably couldn't pay, the state seized their homes. So, led by a veteran named Daniel Shays, they picked up their guns and went down to their county seat to physically prevent the courts from issuing further foreclosure orders. Sounds like a bunch of troublemaking freeloaders looking for a handout. They were white. Brave rebels. The tree of liberty must be swallowed by the blood of patriots. Soon, protest erupted into open revolt. The Confederation government was basically toothless, so it was up to Massachusetts to put the rebellion down. It took the state months to organize a response, and there wasn't enough public money to raise a militia, so they had to rely on, get this, private donations from the wealthy, who certainly didn't want a bunch of poor people with guns running around. Once they did raise troops, the rebellion was quashed pretty quickly, but all things considered, the government's handling of the crisis had been an utter disaster. Again, Charles Pinckney put it well.
Ask the people of Massachusetts if the Confederation protected them during the insurrection of Shays.
His words take on a whole new meaning when you consider that South Carolina's greatest threat of rebellion came from within many South Carolinians' own homes. Their own oppressed underclass had a much longer and more turgid list of grievances than any Shays regulators could write. And if a relatively small rural rebellion could bring a prosperous and populous state like Massachusetts to its knees under this system, then what possible chance would the states of the Deep South have in the event of their worst nightmare? A full-scale slave revolt. All right. So perhaps the Confederation government was to be improved upon. But you can't deny that we Southerners ratified the Constitution only rarely. We embraced it out of necessity, but opposed it ideologically. I now quote Representative Rawlins Lowndes, a most honorable gentleman, responding to Charles Pinckney in that same debate.
The Treaty of Peace with Britain expressly agreed to acknowledge us as free, sovereign, and independent states, which privileges we lived at the
Probably shouldn't just
present
start ripping stuff out of there.
But this new
Yeah,
constitution
maybe
at once
maybe
swept
just the
those
lungs.
privileges away.
You probably don't need both your lungs.
For all.
Pick which lung feels like it's working less good, and just take that one out.
What it was.
Well, you're not going to like this, but the reason that Lowndes was so
I need-
concerned about
need
South
a silly
Carolina's
little
waning
cookie.
self-sovereignty was because of that part in the Constitution that allowed Congress to ban the importation of slaves starting 20 years from then, in 1808. In his rebuttal to Lowndes, Pinckney explained that they had had to fight tooth and nail to keep the importation of slaves going at all, and urged slave owners to consider other important constitutional guarantees for slavery that they had been able to secure.
By this settlement, we have secured an unlimited importation of Negroes for 20 years, nor is it declared that the importation shall be then stopped. It may be continued. We have a security that the general government can never emancipate them, for no such authority is granted. We have obtained a right to recover our slaves in whatever part of America they may take refuge, which is a right we had not before. In short, considering all circumstances, we have made the best terms for the security of this species of property it was in our power to make.
So this debate was two guys disagreeing about how best to support the plantation economy. Antebellum history would prove Pinckney right. Yes, Southerners had to make some concessions, but overall, the new federal compact proved to be an enormous boon for American slavery. The slave states gained much more than stability. They also negotiated some very favorable deals for themselves that greatly enlarged their political influence within the new Union, such as the Three-Fifths Compromise. Over the next 70 years, the Constitution would aid Southern interests much more than it would ever hinder them.
I don't know about that, but one of the deals made during the Constitutional Convention included a provision which allowed states to leave the Union if they were dissatisfied with statehood. The states that seceded in 1861 attempted to do this and were wrongly warred upon by Lincoln and the federal government.
Well, dude, this is a moot point anyway because of Texas v. White, but I'll indulge you. Where is that provision exactly?
The right to secede is in Article 10.
It's Amendment 10.
Amendment 10. Our great Constitution is built in a way of enumerated powers. That means the government can only do what is listed. All else is a right granted to the states, including secession.
Okay, so the 10th Amendment reads, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people." That's certainly a very broad curtailing of federal power.
I don't know if I'll be
but
able
I
to
don't
do
see
it,
anything in there
because
about
this
state
tiny book I
secession.
made is very tiny. I won't even...
Okay, well, if we're just vague booking our way through constitutional law here,
I don't
could
even know if
just
this
as
camera
easily
has
point
autofocus, it was really cheap.
Article 6, Section 2, which states, "The authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the
somehow write
Constitution
ghost
or laws
stories
of any
on
state
this.
to the contrary notwithstanding." In a number of early decisions, the Supreme Court interpreted that clause to mean that when federal
might
and
be able to
state
do
law
it.
clash, federal law is supreme. That would
do
certainly
have a
imply
really
that
tiny
unilateral
paintbrush that might work.
secession over something like, oh, I don't know, an election not going your way would be
Mm-hmm.
super illegal.
Nice man, if you worship government. According to James Madison, the great architect of our Constitution, there is nothing ambiguous about the powers that are granted to the federal government, as he says in Federalist 45. And might I add that this James Madison fellow, he was a founding father.
The powers delegated by the proposed constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state
I'll make
governments
a little like comic book with pages together, and then I want to like have it like abandoned on the floor.
Foreign commerce, with which last the power of taxation will for the most part be connected. The powers reserved to the several states will extend to all of the objects which, in the ordinary course of affairs, concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people, and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state.
True enough, but you forget that Madison also wrote in plain English that once admitted, states do not have the right to withdraw from the Union.
The Constitution requires an adoption in toto.
Kind of like that would be fine.
It has been so adopted by the other states. An adoption for a limited time would be as defective was an adoption of some of the articles only. This idea of states reserving the right to withdraw was started at Richmond and considered as a conditional ratification.
Yeah, I need to cut out a second
Considered as
ghost.
worse than a rejection.
His whole theory of the compound republic proved to be pretty crucial to Southern political thought. Thanks in part to Eli Whitney, over the coming decades, the cotton industry exploded, and the slave states of the Deep South multiplied and prospered. Plantation agriculture expanded to the Gulf Coast and beyond. Per Federalist 45, slave owners could wield the fearsome apparatus of central government in pursuing external objects, namely expanding the nation's southwestern borders and making those states and territories hospitable to slavery. Concerning internal objects, the sovereignty of the states was supreme. Within their little state fiefdoms, slaveholder elites could rule however they saw fit, which allowed them to unaccountably and brutally
Partially
police
glue the
their
other
black
pages
underclass.
down.
The arrangement worked out very well for them. Their only fear was that one day an anti-slavery federal government would try to meddle with the institution, and more broadly, the racial order that American slavery had established.
You forget there was also Southern opposition to an ever more authoritarian federal government that had nothing to do with slavery. When your unlamented progenitor, the fat, toothless, obnoxious, and disliked President John Adams, signed the Alien and Sedition Acts into law, it was the great southern states of Kentucky and Virginia who stood against this early form of Yankee tyranny.
That's right. Inspired primarily by Thomas Jefferson, the Upper South had a states' rights doctrine that was initially much more libertarian and was only incidentally concerned with the rights of slaveholders.
Exactly. And it was that spirit of 76 that swelled within us, swelling, swelling, until...
Bro, calm down.
It erupted out of us into a pure white font of freedom, which gave rise to this, our second war of independence.
Not quite. In the years following the War of 1812, things changed. First came the controversy which led to the Missouri Compromise. In 1819, congressional disagreements about the expansion of slavery to the soon-to-be state of Missouri exploded into a full-blown
I can still
sectional
make it.
crisis as
The pages are
anti-slavery
kinda coming out.
lawmakers
Let's
launched their first major attack on the institution's thus far
try
unmolested
that.
westward expansion.
Oh, well, that was just a cynical attempt by the North to keep the balance of power tipped in their favor. Missouri wanted to be admitted as a slave state.
Missouri.
But you Northerners knew that that would give the South more representation in Congress, and we can't have that now, can we?
Actually, there's every indication that James Talmadge, the congressman who initially proposed restricting slavery in Missouri, did so on moral grounds. And in any case, Northern public opinion was united on the issue. Slavery was an affront to nature, and allowing its unchecked expansion to the West would constitute a betrayal of the foundational American values of freedom and equality. Debating the issue on the floor of the House, Representative Arthur Livermore of New Hampshire argued that the very soul of America was at stake.
An opportunity is now presented, if not to diminish, at least to prevent, the growth of a sin which sits heavy on the souls of every one of us. By embracing this opportunity, we may retrieve the national character, and in some degree our own. But if we suffer it to pass unimproved, let us at least be consistent, and declare that our Constitution was made to oppose slavery, and not to establish liberty.
What's that I smell wafting down from the North? Is that the odor of hypocrisy?
No, I just farted.
When was slavery abolished up there in the Yankee states? Remind me again.
Well, for the most part in the 1780s, when emancipation ceased to be the province of tree-hugging Quakers and entered the political mainstream.
Okay,
You know
be
as well
able
as
to
I
move
that
that
most
around.
northern states didn't abolish slavery right away. In fact, due to considerable backlash from their own slave owners, they began a process of gradual emancipation. It's not that it
Okay,
didn't
sweet. It's
take full
almost been 2
effect for
hours.
decades. Is this not so?
It is.
Furthermore, census data reveals that northern
Tonight I'm gonna work on
was
this
the only
comic.
region where these slaves were freed relatively quickly. In 1820, as the supposedly anti-slavery Northerners
I
were
can make
moralizing
these
about this supposedly Southern evil during the Missouri crisis, there were 48 slaves in Rhode Island, 97 slaves in Connecticut, 10,088 slaves in New
Where is it?
York,
There it is.
7,557 slaves in New Jersey, and 211 slaves in Pennsylvania. So much for your free states.
Fuck. fucking.
Yeah, I got nothing to say to that. Might as well end the episode there. Well, hang on just a goddamn minute. I haven't finished my larger point. Despite the hypocrisy of it, which I fully acknowledge, the North was united in opposing the expansion of slavery. So, faced with such strong opposition, Upper South Jeffersonian planters joined forces
Gonna make
with
some
Deep
big
South
comic booky
pro-slavery
looking
planters
panels.
to create a solid Southern political bloc to meet it. For the first time in American history, the country was divided, not just along political, but sectional lines, with slavery the cornerstone of conflict.
One must look at more than just the surface issue. What does slavery represent? I say it represents 1. Economic continuity, a refusal to upend and crash the Southern economy. 2. Social continuity, a desire to preserve the social status quo and avoid social upheaval. And 3. Political continuity, clinging to the existing political order of individual and states' rights.
That economic continuity could be better described as naked self-interest, because again, by this time, plantation agriculture had become extremely profitable and made the white upper class of the South insanely rich. That social continuity was a draconian
Check out how long this
racial
video is.
hierarchy that was predicated
It is
on
very
the violent
long. I'll have to
subjugation
check out the rest of it later.
of millions of people for the sole purpose of raking
Not
in
very, very
those
long, but I didn't
innocent
realize it was like a whole
that
hour.
political continuity of states' rights was becoming ever more intertwined with slavery and the defense of slavery. Jesus. For example, in 1822, South Carolina passed the Negro Seamen's Act, which declared that all foreign free black sailors visiting the port of Charleston would have to be detained in the local jail for the duration of their visit. One Jamaican sailor took South Carolina to federal court over this, claiming that the statute violated the 1815 Commercial Convention between the United States and Great Britain. The court ruled in his favor and declared the Seamen's Act unconstitutional. Slave owners were furious. They believed the ruling flew in the face of Madison's concept of external and internal jurisdiction and represented a dangerous and destabilizing attack on the racial hierarchy of the South. Writing in the aftermath of the decision, the governor of Georgia predicted that
Soon, very soon, the federal government, discarding a mask, will openly lend itself to a combination of fanatics for the destruction of everything valuable in the southern country.
Heck, I
The
might
moment
actually
we
be able to
cease being
sort of
masters,
draw tiny
we shall
images in
be
here.
slaves.
And now I don't know what to
then,
make the
during
story.
the fallout of the Tariff of 1828, the flirtation of states' rights politics and pro-slavery power became an out-and-out marriage. No one was more instrumental in this than John C. Calhoun. He fiercely opposed the tariff,
The Tariff of Abomination.
the Tariff of Abominations, which had a number of deleterious effects on the Southern economy. It was a
I'm able to see
sectional
that word.
dispute. At the end of a long decade of sectional disputes, Calhoun's constitutional theories, which he was developing during this period, thus took on a distinctly sectional flavor. Rabidly pro-slavery, Calhoun harmonized the Upper South's distrust of centralized power with the Deep South's terror of emancipation into a radical reimagining of Madison's compound republic. In his mind, the idea that
Put in, like, a
the
few
United
key
States was a
panels and try to
cohesive
fill in the rest.
national polity
Ow.
was constitutional heresy, and he believed that states basically had unlimited powers to protect themselves from federal interference and the tyranny of the majority.
Well, that sounds nice.
The devil comes in a pleasing shape. Calhoun's theory of government came to be almost exclusively concerned with furthering Southern slaveholder interests. And as these ideas gained traction, Virginian lawyers Abel Upshur and Beverly Tucker wrote influential polemics, bringing rights of property and slaves to the very center of Jeffersonian constitutional thought. What emerged from this ideological confluence of the 1820s South was a political platform that came to be broadly known as Southern rights. Many of its principles would go on to be foundational tenets of the Confederate worldview.
Here's my holdup with this narrative of yours, and I mean this sincerely. The Declaration of Independence gives us the right to pursue our own happiness, free from government interference. Yes, slavery was evil, but there's another principle involved here, is there not? Give the government an inch on one issue and they'll take a mile on another one. Next thing you know, you're getting groped by rent-a-cops at the airport. Therefore, I would argue that states' rights were a crucial component of the checks and balances of power. Rights stamped out under the boot heels of a million Yankee soldiers. And our country is lesser for it.
Well, I would argue that within the philosophy of Southern rights, individual and state rights always took a back seat to economic advantage and political power. What you would describe as a conflict between northern authoritarianism and southern libertarianism, I would describe as a struggle between two competing concepts of American nationhood. Slave owners became convinced that the best security for their fortunes and property was to enshrine manifestly pro-slavery legislation into national law. The Constitution had become extremely accommodating of the slave system, but maddeningly, it lacked an explicit and concrete endorsement of human bondage. Southern rights advocates spent much of the 1830s, 40s, and 50s attempting to correct that mistake.
Aha! But what about the proposed Corwin Amendment in the winter of '61, just before the war? Lincoln offered the South the explicit constitutional protection for slavery that you say they were looking for, and yet we still seceded, proving it was about states' rights after all.
We already talked about the Corwin Amendment.
We did?
Yeah, way back in episode 1. So you mentioned the Corwin Amendment. I'm glad you did. That was basically the federal government's last-ditch attempt to avoid the Civil War. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Corwin Amendment was this proposed amendment to the Constitution that basically would have guaranteed the southern states right to own slaves. I mean, potentially forever. So your implication would be that if the war was really about slavery, then why didn't the southern states just immediately go along with and ratify the Corwin Amendment? But you're forgetting that a big cause of the Civil War, and certainly the events leading up to the Civil War, were not about preserving slavery, but expanding it. I mean, you take the Missouri Compromise, for instance.
Wow. So young. So full of hope.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
More than 3 years now.
Yeah, wow.
So adding to the point made in the clip, the Corwin Amendment would have prohibited the federal government from interfering in the, quote, domestic institutions of the states. Specifically, and here it parrots the vague language that the framers used back in 1787, persons held to service. Confederates rejected the Corwin Amendment outright. To them, it was completely inadequate. As you said, it only protected slavery in the states where it existed in 1861. Confederates would settle for nothing less than the proposed Crittenden Compromise of 1860, which would have explicitly recognized African slavery, and it uses those exact words, as legitimate and constitutional, and completely immune from federal interference below the 3630 parallel established in the Missouri Compromise. And that would have included territorial gains made in Central and South America, something the planter class salivated over often enough. It's a big reason most of them supported the Mexican War. But there was no way that Lincoln and the Republicans could accept that. I mean, that would have been giving the South the exact same thing that they wanted from the very beginning, which was a legally binding admission that America was fundamentally a pro-slavery nation.
Back up now. You still haven't given me any proof
Okay,
that
there we go.
Southerners abused federal
The
power.
first time walking through was they get attacked by a monster, and then there's a bang, and someone's one shot the monster, and they turn around, they're like, "You're still alive."
Forcible displacement of Native Americans from the southeastern U.S. was broadly popular among white Southerners, especially in Georgia.
Yeah, the whole states' rights thing may have been an actual issue a very, very long time ago, when the states were just being figured out. Ever since
Congressman Wilson Lumpkin introduced a proposal
the
for
Civil War and the Confederates, it's pretty much just been dog whistle.
Lumpkin recalled how he was stymied at first by northern humanitarian efforts.
Or let us be racist and let us have slaves.
Confidence of our Indian population, but we still found many serious obstacles.
But like edges of panels on these sides, so it looks like there's something there. But there not anything there. Some
Congress. Moreover, during the recess of Congress,
have the pages glued in a way, or just only be able to see the corners of them.
work and gotten up thousands of petitions.
Some swirlies and some shapes.
Children, protecting against the removal of the poor dear Indians. And to finish the picture, in these petitions we were denounced as slaveholders.
Oh, that's right. The saintly North and the horrible evil South. Tell me, who are these Yankees taking such a strong, principled stance against Indian removal?
Well, there was President John Quincy Adams, for one.
Oh, from Massachusetts, is that right?
From Braintree, yeah.
Massachusetts, interesting name for a state. Is that named after some place in England? Is there a quaint little village in Suffolk named Massachusetts?
No.
Really? Well, that is interesting. And where, pray tell, does the name originate?
The Massachusetts people, who lived there for thousands of years before we did.
Oh, and what happened to them?
Well, we took over all their good farmland, and that kind of forced him to convert to Christianity and assimilate with us. And then we got really paranoid that they were going to turn on us, so we, yes? So we rounded them all up and put them in this internment camp
Yep.
on this crappy little island in Boston Harbor in the middle of winter. Okay, yeah. Northern opposition to Indian removal was incredibly hypocritical, but sincerely felt.
Oh, I'm sure they offered up many thoughts and prayers.
The Cherokee were able to keep Georgia legally at bay with the help of some, yes, admittedly fairly flaccid support from the Adams administration. But then two things happened. First, gold was discovered in the mountains of North Georgia, making white settlement efforts much more urgent. And second, Adams was defeated and succeeded as president by Southerner Andrew Jackson.
I've decided we'll putting this tiny little nonsense comic on this page that the two characters in this are like gay lovers, and the monster is a metaphor for homophobia. I've decided that because I can. No one's even going to know that or care about it, but I will know. I guess also y'all.
When Jacksonians spoke of rights for citizens, they had a very specific idea of what kind of person that citizen was. A white man. Jackson's populism replaced class lines with racial and gendered ones. Jackson and the White South more broadly saw no place for Native
Mod
Americans
Podge
in
on
the
this.
Republic. Natives living east of the Mississippi were an obstacle to white civilizational
Try
progress.
to get it to
The
stick like
liberty
this.
and prosperity of the one necessitated the expulsion of the other. In an 1830 address to Congress, 6 months after signing the Indian Removal Act into law, President Jackson boasted that
It gives me pleasure to announce to Congress that the benevolent policy of our government
Okay, I gotta go get some Mod Podge and
in relation to the removal of the Indians beyond the white settlements is approaching to a
get some Mod Podge and put these away.
What man would prefer a country governed with forests and ranged by a few thousand savages to our extensive republic, studded with cities, towns, and prosperous farms, embellished with all the improvements which art can devise or industry execute, occupied by more than 12 million happy people, and filled with all the blessings of liberty, civilization, and religion.
Jackson's presidency was in many ways a realization of Southern right to nationhood, a powerful, decisive executive in external affairs, but highly deferential to slaveholder interests in internal ones, and most importantly, a staunch defender of the white supremacist social order.
In your eagerness to blame white people in every video you make, you're forgetting about the nullification process. Wait. I just had the most profound sense of deja vu. In your eagerness to blame white people in every video you make, you've forgotten about the nullification process.
Man, we must really be running low on comments if we're recycling shit from episode 3.
Well, these are complex, nuanced topics, you know, and they don't, they're not gonna...
Oh, I know.
They just don't have the, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, John C. Calhoun nearly led South Carolina to secession over a states' rights issue during Jackson's presidency. The rights of South Carolina to nullify the tariff we previously discussed. Jackson wasn't obsequious to planter class interests then. In fact, he was maneuvering troops for a potential invasion. Sounds positively a Lincoln. So, if Louisiana had tried to secede from the Confederate States during the Civil
Sure, I
War,
should probably let this ink dry for a little longer before doing that. Okay.
No, not if he was in any position to stop it, but that was wartime. The circumstances would have been different. What's your point?
My
It
point
has
is
been
that
2
there's more
hours
than one
though,
kind
and
of
my
unionist,
wrist is acting
and
up
all
again.
sorts of different kinds of flavor of unionist.
So I'm
Jackson,
making some good
Jousting,
progress on the
Calhoun
weathering of this. I
squabbled between
would
two different
like
strains of
to
Southern
weather
rights
this
nationalism.
wood a bit more, because I did a
Similarly,
black wash and I got in there a
Confederates
little
worried
bit,
about how far
but
the states' rights principle went. And we'll get more into this
an
later,
issue
but
with
even most of
washes
them
is
would
that they
agree
do
you can't just let the
cause a
states
little
do
bit of
whatever,
warping.
right?
It's clicking
At a
again,
certain
sort
point,
of,
the
which is
central
nice,
government
but
has to
not as
put
good
its
as it
foot
used
down.
to.
South Carolina's secession would have jeopardized the security of the nation. So
So I don't think I want to do another wash. I want to, like,
in fact, you could argue
individually
that
go in and paint the
secede,
boards.
South Carolina became just the sort of
But that's gonna hurt my wrist, so I
external
really ought to take a break.
nationhood that Jackson habitually crushed. Why should the tranquility of white men in North Carolina, Tennessee,
I gotta
Georgia,
pause this and probably check it out later, listen to the rest later. Oh yeah, I only got like 24 minutes left of it, so. I gotta take a break and finish my tea and do some stretches. And try not to be too impatient with Mod Podging this, because I like how it's coming out a lot. A little tiny comic to leave on the floor. Oh wait, I should yellow it, huh? Yo, nice! Congratulations to the intersex people for representation in the anime Horse Girl game. That's cool. Yeah, that can happen to real life animals, so, like, that's cool. Fine motion. Neat. Okay, I should definitely, like, yellow that a bit. So I'm gonna have to wait for it to dry more so I can, maybe I can, like, mix a little bit of Mod Podge with some acrylic paint to, like, seal it together. I still have this stuff left over. Okay. I can do a test. I can do a test where I put a little bit of matte Mod Podge with this stuff, this, yellow acrylic. Okay, this stuff is a bit, thick. Gonna have to shake that up. I am gonna have to sign off here. I'm glad that I'm on such a roll with this project, but I do have to make myself take breaks. Some other random paper, it's the same type of paper, just kinda... really soak into there. I'm not really soaking because I have too much of it. Both sides. Okay, I think that's like a good yellowing for a book that's been in a dusty treehouse for who knows how long. Oh, cool. Oh yeah, you were telling me about that before. The horse is represented through the accessories and stuff. That's neat. I like that they included the intersex horse and have either no accessories or both accessories or like special dealies. Shows real dedication to the horses. Okay, I think that'll be good because it's kind of like lightning and soaking in. Now, since I already have this in my hand, I am signing off in a second, but I want to try this on the backs because I do need the Mod Podge to soak all the way through. Okay, just gonna go for it. Okay, it is not smearing the Micron. That is good. That is very good. It wouldn't be too hard to remake if I had to, but I was just glad that I threw something together that kind of worked on first try. Now I'd like to make another little comic, but I think I'm going to have it closed, and the cover is going to be up, so I'll have to put together some kind of cover. like Rocket Lad or something. The cover on this one doesn't matter because I'm going to glue it to the floor. Get a little bit more around the edges because the edges always yellow more. Although this has been open, so that would happen to the whole thing. Probably should have just disintegrated by now, but I want there to be little comics and stuff on the floor, so that is just what will happen. Good. I should be able to fold these and mess with these later to make them a bit closer together. Set that on there. I should yellow the edge of this too. No, but they should totally hire me. Whatever agency the man who is not tall, the man who is not short work for, they should hire me and I'll make them some little houses for their tiny people. I don't know how far you've gotten in the series, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. I don't need this to open, I just need the illusion of pages, but I did give it pages. So I'm gonna like... So make sure they don't all just completely clump together. Do need them to stick together a little bit. Fuck. Okay, even if I press them together a little bit, you can still see that they are pages. Oh, whoops, I should not leave that open. That's probably what I was drawing out. Be a little bit more separated. Okay, old yellow pages. So I was looking at the bright white and I was like, wait, that's gonna stand out like crazy in here. It's drawing up nicely. Might put some regular Mod Podge on that later. Yeah, I think that'll look nice in there. You can tell it's a little comic, but it doesn't stand out like too much. Okay. And so later I need to cut another little ghost and sand it down to make it opaque. Put the dartboard up and stuff. I kind of want to like make sure I have all the stuff I want to put inside before putting it inside, but I think, I don't want to put too much stuff in there. I'm thinking of putting some posters for like fake movies and bands and stuff, which could be fun. Did I mix too much of this? Okay, now I'm actually signing off. Right, finish that later. By later, I mean like in a minute after I throw some stuff away and drink all my tea. And feed Pistachio. Okay. No problem. Y'all check your postures and drink your waters and feed your horse a carrot. Feed your horse girl a carrot. Right, yeah. I will watch it, don't worry. I think I have it up in a tab. Wait, is that it? Oh, why do I have 50 million tabs open again? God damn it, I gotta do a tab purge. Okay, anyway, to check your postures, drink your waters, watch the Limbus Company April Fool's video, feed your cat, and try to get the good sleepy times. Good night.